Hello there, and welcome back to Mastering the Young Band. What I want to talk about today is how to get your students to keep learning in their second and third year of young band. I think as young band teachers, we do a great job of initially teaching our kids rhythm and key signature and time signature in that first year of instruction. I think we really excel at that. Where it gets challenging is starting in that second year, we start moving to sheet music, and it can get pretty easy to stop a nice coherent progression with our kids in terms of their skill building, whether that's rhythm, whether that's advanced key signatures, just anything that they need to learn in order to play grade 2 music, grade 3 music, and beyond. So I know I've caught myself in the second year. Sometimes I get a little bit too technique and just instrument, just full band, not instrument specific, but full band priorities. And then my kids aren't growing on their instrument as much as they should. Sometimes as well, I'm just not having my students read enough music. It's really easy when you get into that second and third year of band to do your warm-up and technique building, but then to neglect your students just reading a lot of different types of music. So I am a big fan of Smartmusic. I don't get paid by Smartmusic for saying this or creating this episode, but I have been using Smartmusic now for about 18 years with my band program. And how I use Smartmusic for this particular thing is I give my kids weekly assignments in a band method book. I use the Sound Innovations method book, but then I'll also use other method books if they have sequences and songs and different etudes that I like. So what I do, I pay for Smartmusic subscriptions for my kids through a fundraiser that I do. And then that way they have full access and I can assign them anything out of the Smartmusic catalog. And what I do with my kids is I will sometimes assign technique exercises out of like the Foundations book or out of my own book, Essential Foundations. But what I really like to do is I like for them to have a weekly line out of their book that they need to learn on their own and turn in every week. If you haven't watched my episode yet on learning sequences, that's where I talk about how I teach my kids to teach themselves when it comes to their music. I teach them when you first see a piece of music, you don't just play it. You count the rhythm, you dot it, you note name it, you finger through, and then you finally play the piece of music. And they follow those steps. Usually that first time they play, they can do a pretty darn good job. And so how I use Smartmusic is they get a line out of the book that I assign. For my second year band, it's usually something out of a Sound Innovations book 2, maybe Tradition of Excellence book 2, something like that. And I really want to make sure that there's certain skills that they are developing, even if they don't have them in their sheet music. So for instance, in the second quarter with my second year players, I really wanted them to work on the different permutations of eighth notes. So rhythms like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, or the other permutation 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and. And so in their Smartmusic, what we did, so first of all, I have a class set of those books. So each kid has that book too, and we can open up to it. And in class, what I usually do is I highlight the key signature, we mark the critical note. That's a term I use for the most missed note in a key signature. We identify the critical note, I make sure the kids understand that. We count through it, we daw through it, I teach them the system. And then in class, I'll remind them how to use Smartmusic as well. I'll remind them to go, okay, when you go home, use the play button. Don't just use record in Smartmusic. Push play, push the my part, Aaron finger along with it. And that just trains them how to be good practicers at home. And it also gets them to start working on lots of diverse music as they go. For a period of time, I went all the way away from using a method book at all in my second and third year. And I found that my kids just weren't going through enough music and getting enough repetition, seeing different things in different ways, especially rhythm. And so once a week, I'll assign them some specific line for them to turn in. What I usually do is I assign it on a Monday, and then it's due on a Sunday. And then that's how I assign them a grade. They are graded on their Smartmusic submissions. Now, my district, each kid, we're a 1-for-1 laptop district. So in my district, each kid is checked out a district laptop, and Smartmusic really works quite well with those laptops. So that's an advantage that I certainly have in my district. But using Smartmusic is a way to get kids doing more music, more objectives. Some programs use objective sheets where they have, here's all the skills you need to learn this quarter, this quarter, this quarter. And if you have a sectional program, and if you have multiple directors, I think that's a little easier to pull off. When you're a lone wolf director like I am, that can just be too hard to manage and keep track of. I do not like having kids see me before school, after school, during lunch, during advisory, trying to check things off. Because as you know, they're gonna, at the end of the semester, try to cram all that in on you, and it's just too busy. So I like to do these weekly checks like this. It kind of spreads it out and just keeps them going on lots of different music. If you only focus on simple warm-ups and then sheet music in your band, your low wind players, your trombones, they're not going to get the rhythmic development that your upper brass and upper woodwinds are. So using Smartmusic that way is a great way of keeping your kids learning. If you've never worked with Smartmusic, boy, am I a really big fan of the updates that they've done here in the past few years in 2023. It's now 2024. But those updates, how you can assign things, it's just gotten more streamlined. It's easier and easier for educators to use. So if you haven't dug in or dove into Smartmusic yet, I really do recommend it. I think it's really improved as a program, and the new web interface, it just works really quite well. So that's one way of keeping your students accountable and keeping them progressing on their instrument, is using Smartmusic to assign them weekly lines out of a book. So hope you found that helpful. Feel free to check out my resources at MikePerezBand.com. Thank you.